our aim today is to set our head in a brickwork pattern. Okay, so what do you think I mean by brickwork? Layered, yeah? Yeah, so like bricks on the wall, okay? So are bricks on the wall even? No, they're staggered, aren't they? Okay, and it's exactly the same in our setting formation. Okay, now the reason we set like this is one, it reduces lines on the scalps when you take the rollers out. If you've done channel setting, okay, you end up with definite lines. With this way, you don't get those lines. Okay, it breaks it up. All right. So I've just started putting a few in, so you can start to see the pattern. So literally, you always put 2 between each one. All right. You did some setting last week, didn't you? Yeah. So I'm just going to go over a few things that Sarah may have mentioned last week, okay? Setting lotion, did she talk to you about setting lotion? Okay, so we've got a few different types of setting lotion at the college. We've got just a general one that you can spray on before and after during your setting, okay? And then we have these little bottles of setting lotion, okay? Some of them are coloured setting lotions and some are just general setting lotions, okay? It's your choice what you'd like to use. If you're using one of the bottles, you just sprinkle the contents through the hair and rub it in, okay? Obviously, if you're using the spray format, then you would just spray it on, okay? If you are spraying this on before you start setting, you will find if your hair dries out, it gets quite tacky, okay? So keep your hair nice and moist if you are putting this on prior to putting your rollers in, okay? So same rules apply as last week. The section size you take needs to be the same size as your roller. Okay, so this roller isn't very big, okay, so the depth will be the same depth as my roller and just slightly narrower than the roller, okay. If I take 2 bigger sections, it will have baggy sides, okay, and it's hard to actually get all your hair into it as well, alright. So I'm just going to carry on. So I'm literally, you can see, working my way down each side, okay. And I really want you to be quite particular about your ends. Okay, now I haven't shampooed my head because I don't want it to be under the dryer for too long. Okay, so what I'd recommend you all do is just dampen down your heads with water. Okay, and what I'm really looking for is that you get these ends in really smooth. It's going to be a little bit easier now that you've cut your heads because you'll have got rid of some of the split ends. Okay, if bits fall out as you go along, just add them in. Okay, but try to get smooth ends. The idea of a pintail is you can use it to push any small bits in as you go along. Okay? Position it onto your base, so there's no hair hanging over, and use your pin to secure it. Okay? So often you go through one roller and through the roller in front. You can use more than one roller, because you can see here I've had to use 2 rollers. If your hair is really long, so I know Anne was panicking saying, my hair's so long, and you find that it's popping out, you may need more than one roller. Okay? So obviously when you reach the bottom, then go back up to the top and start again. So always take your first section between your top 2 rollers. Okay? Now you will find as you move further down, you might not be able to follow in complete lines. It may sort of start channeling in, okay? As long as you've got a brickwork format, that's absolutely fine, okay? So I'm just keeping my hair nice and moist so I can get them ends to go round nice and neatly, okay? If I don't get my ends to go around neatly, it forms something called buckled ends. So when I take my set out, they'll have very frizzy ends, okay? So it'll be very hard to dress out. Right, so just bring that down and position, okay? You will be using setting a lot during your competition work. It's a great way of preparing the hair. You may not be using these type of rollers, you may be using heated rollers or Velcro rollers. What rollers did you use last week? Use these ones, okay? Yeah. You could use these ones again, or if you'd like to try the Velcro rollers tonight, you can. Alright, so it's purely optional, whatever you'd like to try. Okay, so notice how I'm not going for 2 bigger sections and it makes it sit nice and neat. Okay, so I'm putting my rollers on base. The reason I'm doing it on base is because I want maximum root lift. Okay, if I was to take my roller away from its base, so I'll just give you an example. I don't know if Sarah talked about this last week. If I was to take my section and take it away from my base, I would achieve something called root drag. Okay, now this isn't necessarily a bad thing, because actually root drag sometimes is needed. If your client doesn't want root lift, if they want it really flat at the roots but lots of volume on the ends, you would choose to do this type of technique. If you want maximum root lift, you're going to keep it on its base. Okay. What I'd really like you to achieve today is to try the brickwork formation. Okay. But I'd like you to keep your rollers on base, because it's actually probably harder to do. So I don't want to see too much root drag today. All right. Later on when we do our setting, when I sort of start bringing out pictures of celebrities and stuff and ask you to achieve that look, we'll be moving more on to using different root drag and non-root drag in them instances, okay? So what we're going to do today, I want you all to have a go at brickwork formation, on base, and try and get the ends really smooth, okay? We are going to, you can stop now actually, Sophie.